The moment I stepped into the reception hall, every head turned, not because I was late but because I wasn't supposed to be there at all. The chandeliers hummed above the guests, scattering light across the marble floor like shattered stars. The air smelled of roses, champagne, and polite judgment. My son stood near the altar, adjusting his cufflinks, unaware of the storm about to unfold. But she saw me. Oh, she saw me instantly. My son's girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, froze mid-laugh, her champagne flute pausing halfway to her lips. Her smile dropped, stretched, then collapsed altogether. She marched toward me in her glittering white gown, irritation scribbled across her face. "What are you doing here?" "You weren't invited," she hissed, her voice sharp enough to slice fabric. Guests pretended not to stare, but their eyes followed every step. I didn't flinch. Instead, I gave her the kind of calm smile that made her angrier. "I came," I said softly, "to bring someone special. A guest who was dying to see you." Her face twitched, confusion, annoyance, fear, all fighting for space. "Who?" she snapped. "Who did you bring?" I stepped aside just slightly, letting the doorway behind me fill with light. Someone exhaled sharply. Someone else whispered. Her eyes followed mine. She looked past me. And when she saw the person standing behind me, her entire face drained of color. Lips parted. Breath caught. Hands trembling. The same girl who always controlled every room suddenly couldn't control her own voice. "No," she whispered. "No, why is she here?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Because the truth, the full truth, was about to sit in the front row of her perfect little wedding. And she knew it. She stumbled back a step, gripping the edge of a nearby table as if the linen could steady her. The guests looked between us, sensing tension but pretending they didn't. Weddings make people bold with curiosity and cowardly with confrontation. Behind me, the special guest shifted her weight, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. The room responded like it was holding its breath. My son's fiancée swallowed hard. "Why is she here?" she repeated, quieter this time, almost pleading. Her voice cracked in a way she couldn't hide. Her mother hurried over, whispering urgently, "Sweetheart, maintain your composure. This is your day. Don't let anything ruin it." But her eyes darted toward the woman behind me, widening with recognition. Because they all knew her. Or rather, they knew of her. My son's fiancée wasn't the only one who forgot to send her an invitation. I stepped a little to the side, giving everyone a clearer view. The room shifted, guests leaning forward subtly. The woman behind me lifted her chin, her calm presence a silent indictment. She looked elegant, not in the loud, glittering way of weddings, but in the quiet way that comes from truth finally stepping into the light. My son's fiancée whispered her name under her breath like a sin she thought she'd buried. "Marissa." Her voice broke on it. People murmured. My son looked over from the altar, confusion tightening his expression. The minister paused mid-sentence. Even the string quartet faltered. Marissa's eyes didn't waver. She walked forward with a soft grace, the kind that exposes guilt more effectively than shouting ever could. "Hello," she said evenly. "I wasn't invited, again." My son's fiancée went rigid, panic flickering across her face, a panic she tried desperately to hide. I kept my voice gentle as I spoke to her. "You said you wanted a small wedding," I said. "You just didn't mention what you were trying to keep out." Her fingers shook around her bouquet. Because Marissa wasn't just some random guest. She was the one person who knew the secret this wedding wasn't built to survive. A ripple of whispers moved through the room like wind through tall grass. People glanced between the bride and Marissa, trying to piece together a puzzle they weren't supposed to know existed. My son, now visibly tense, stepped down from the altar. "Mom? What's going on? Why is Marissa here?" I didn't answer him yet. It wasn't time. Some truths need the person responsible to speak first. The bride, Emily, tightened her grip on her bouquet until the white roses bent under the pressure. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed at Marissa, her voice trembling. "Why did you come? What do you want?" Marissa exhaled slowly, her calmness slicing sharper than anger ever could. "I came because you didn't give me a choice." Emily blinked rapidly, trying to maintain her perfect wedding composure, but the facade was already cracking. Her mother stepped closer, whispering urgently, "Sweetheart, whatever this is, handle it quietly." Quietly. They love that word. Quiet pain. Quiet secrets. Quiet lies. Marissa walked a little closer, stopping just a few feet from Emily. The guests parted instinctively, giving the moment space. "Maybe you should tell them," she said gently, "why you blocked my number last month. Or why you told me to stay away from your family. Emily's breath hitched. That's not, you're twisting things. But the panic in her eyes betrayed her. My son looked between them, confusion turning into something heavier. Emily, he said carefully, what is she talking about? Emily's hand trembled harder. Nothing. She's just trying to ruin my wedding. Marissa shook her head. No. I'm trying to stop you from ruining his life. A gasp traveled through the room. Even the musicians paused completely now. Emily backed away, her voice thin and cracking. You don't know what you're talking about. Marissa's eyes softened with a sadness I hadn't expected. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about, she whispered. And so do you. Emily froze. Everyone watched. And the truth, the one she thought she had buried, was beginning to claw its way out. Emily's breath came in shallow, uneven bursts, the kind that betray guilt long before words do. Her gaze darted from Marissa to my son, then to the guests who were now openly staring. Her perfect wedding veneer was cracking, piece by piece, and she could feel it. My son stepped closer, confusion turning into dread. Emily, what is she saying? What's going on? Emily lifted her chin, trying to regain control. She's obsessed with drama. She's lying. She's always been jealous of me. But Marissa didn't flinch. She didn't shout. She didn't look offended. She simply opened her small clutch and pulled out her phone. I didn't want to do this, she said softly. But you left me no choice. She tapped the screen. A voice recording icon blinked. The room tilted forward. Emily lunged. Don't you dare. But Marissa stepped back, pressing play before she could touch her. And just like that, Emily's own voice filled the wedding hall. He's easy, the recording crackled. Once we're married, I'll get access to everything. His accounts, the house, the business. I just need to keep him away from his mom and from Marissa. They're the only ones who see through me. Gasps erupted. One woman dropped her champagne glass. My son's face went pale, a kind of pale that breaks something inside a mother. Emily stumbled backward, shaking her head violently. No, that's edited. That's not real. But it was her voice, her tone, her words. Every lie she had wrapped herself in at that altar was unraveling. My son stared at her as if seeing a stranger. Emily, tell me this isn't true. She couldn't. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Only panic. Marissa's voice was quiet, steady. You tried to isolate him. You tried to isolate me. And when I warned him, you threatened me. Emily choked on a sob. The wedding she built on deception was collapsing. And everyone could see it now. Emily's legs wobbled as she tried to steady herself, gripping the edge of a chair like the floor had become unstable beneath her. The wedding guests whispered openly now, no longer hiding their curiosity or judgment. The truth had turned into a spotlight, and Emily was trapped in the center of it. Her mother rushed forward, panic etched into every line of her face. Turn it off. This is a private matter, she hissed at Marissa. But Marissa simply lifted her chin. A private matter you tried to hide at his expense. My son took a slow, shaky breath, the kind people take when their world shifts beneath them. Emily, he said quietly, did you really plan all this? The isolation. The manipulation. Emily lifted her hands helplessly. No, baby, you have to believe me. That recording is taken out of context. He stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. There is no context in which those words sound innocent. Emily's mascara streaked as tears spilled down her cheeks. Fine. Maybe I said some things, but I didn't mean them. I was angry. I was venting. Marissa met her eyes, unblinking. You said those things while smiling. You weren't angry. You were planning. Emily shook her head wildly, turning to my son. She's obsessed with you. She always has been. She wants to ruin us. Marissa almost laughed. Almost. If I wanted him, I wouldn't have walked away 2 years ago. That hit harder than the recording. My son blinked, stunned. Walked away, he whispered. Emily froze, her breath stilled, her eyes darted. She hadn't expected that part to surface. Marissa's voice softened, but her words cut like glass. I wasn't pushed out of your life. Emily pushed me out. A collective inhale swept through the room. Emily staggered, her voice breaking. Stop, please stop. But the truth wasn't stopping. It had waited long enough. And the next blow would land harder than all the rest. Emily's shoulders curled inward, her confidence collapsing like wet paper. She looked around the room for someone, anyone, to defend her. But even her bridesmaids stood frozen, clutching their bouquets like shields. My son's voice was quiet, but the quiet that comes before something breaks. What does she mean, you pushed her out? Emily shook her head rapidly. No. She's twisting everything. She's trying to ruin my big day. Marissa didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Tell him about the messages, she said. The ones where you told me I wasn't good enough for your family. The ones where you said you would make sure he never answered my calls again. Emily's mouth opened, then closed. My son inhaled sharply. Messages? You told me she lost interest. You told me she moved on. Emily stepped toward him, reaching for his hand. Sweetheart, you have to understand. He pulled his hand away. That single movement echoed louder than the gasps. Emily, he said, voice trembling, did you lie to me about why she left? Did you manipulate the situation so I wouldn't talk to her? Emily's lower lip quivered. I was protecting us. Protecting us from what? He demanded. Her eyes flicked to Marissa, full of panic. From her. She was a threat. Marissa lifted an eyebrow. A threat to what? The future you had already calculated? The money you thought you'd control? The life you wanted to build at his expense? Emily's breath hitched. No, that's not. But the guests were no longer questioning Marissa. They were questioning her. My son pressed a hand to his forehead. Emily, I trusted you. And you isolated me. From my friends. From Marissa. From my own mother. Emily's voice broke into a sob. I did it because I love you. Marissa's eyes softened with pity, not anger. That's not love, she said. That's ownership. The room fell silent. Emily collapsed into a chair, shaking. Her wedding day was dissolving beneath her feet, and she could no longer stop the fall. Emily's world was shrinking before her eyes. The decorated archway, the roses, the rows of chairs, all of it suddenly too bright, too heavy, too loud. Her perfect wedding aesthetic couldn't protect her from the truth bleeding into every corner of the room. My son drew in a shaky breath, looking between the two women who had shaped his past and nearly shaped his future. Emily, he said, voice raw, tell me the truth. All of it. Right now. Emily wiped her cheeks with trembling fingers. I was scared, she whispered. You always lit up when Marissa walked into a room. You laughed differently with her. I knew you still cared. I knew she could ruin everything I worked for. Marissa closed her eyes briefly, not in triumph but in grief. The truth always costs something. So, Emily continued, voice cracking, I told her she wasn't good enough for you. I convinced your family she was unstable. And I told you she moved on, because I couldn't lose you. Gasps rippled across the guests again, stronger now, sharper. My son's heartbeat was practically audible. You didn't lose me, he said quietly. You stole me. Emily winced like the words were physical blows. I stepped forward then, placing a gentle hand on my son's arm. She didn't just isolate you from friends, I said softly. She tried to isolate you from your own family. Emily's mother bristled. This is getting out of hand. No, my son said firmly. It's finally making sense. Emily's father rubbed his forehead, ashamed. We should have known, he muttered. Emily looked at me suddenly, anger flaring through her tears. You planned this. You brought her here to humiliate me. I shook my head calmly. No. I brought her here because you left her no other place to speak. You closed every door she knocked on. Marissa stepped closer, her voice steady. I didn't come to ruin your wedding, Emily. I came because you built your future on a lie that involved both of us. Emily's bouquet slipped from her fingers and hit the floor, petals scattering like broken promises. Her wedding was no longer breaking. It was already broken. The weight of everything, every lie, every manipulation, every carefully crafted illusion, came crashing down at once. Emily sat frozen in her wedding gown, surrounded by the very people she tried to control. The flowers around her looked wilted now, the perfect decor suddenly feeling cheap under the glare of truth. My son stood still for a long moment, staring at the woman he almost married. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady in a way that made the room go silent. This isn't love, Emily. This is fear dressed up as devotion. Emily's chin quivered. I did all of this because I couldn't lose you. You never had me, he said softly. Not the real me. You isolated me. Her tears spilled freely now, dripping onto her gown like ink stains on white paper. Please, don't do this. Not today. He looked at her with a grief so deep it almost broke me. But some truths don't hurt, they free. My son turned to Marissa. Their eyes met, not with romantic tension but with recognition. with unfinished wounds, with understanding. Thank you, he whispered to her, for telling the truth, even when I didn't want to hear it. Marissa nodded, voice soft. I never wanted to hurt you. I just didn't want you marrying someone who would. Emily let out a sob, muffled and desperate. You're choosing her over me? No, he said gently. I'm choosing myself. A painful, honest answer. He stepped back from the altar, undoing months of planning with a single movement. The minister lowered his book. The guests stood in stunned silence. Emily's mother collapsed into a chair. Her father rubbed his face with both hands. The bridesmaids silently wiped mascara streaks. Emily looked at me one last time, eyes shattered. This is your fault, she whispered. I shook my head. No. This is your truth. And with that, my son walked out of the wedding hall, away from the lies, away from the manipulation, away from the woman who nearly trapped him in a life built on deceit. Marissa followed behind him, slow and steady. I walked last, letting the door close on a ceremony that would never happen. Outside the air felt cleaner. The sky brighter. My son exhaled, a trembling breath of relief. And for the first time in a long time he didn't look weighed down. He looked free.